the kiwi and the lion.
That's a pretty good
That's it. We
start.
got it. We got it first
Yo,
take. That's it. That's our
easy.
opening theme every time now. Because last time we were talking about like retirement expectations for like
Mhm.
different places and generations, right?
That's not looking good right now. Like you guys probably saw like how the official cash rate went to 4.5%.
Yeah.
No, 4.25, I think, today.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Like I did some quick math, and it's like if you go back 2 years, the official cash rate is 17 times more than 2 years ago. If you go to November 2020, 17x. That's crazy. So it's going to be rough times. This is cool calculation. This guy, he has like a stats model for like trying to predict how the official cash rate is related to the average fixed term 2-year mortgage rate. And it's something like at 4.25, the average mortgage rate is around 7%. And I saw in that Reserve Bank update today, they're expecting it to go to like 5.25 by February next year.
Yeah.
It's like 8%
interest rate.
Yeah, on average, which is like it's like doubly insane because when you get a mortgage, they like stress test you at like plus 3%. So if it's 8%, you have to be able to pay 11%. So as far as retirement, I'm just trying to live till tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like,
to be fair, that means money in the bank, or like you get sick interest rates. But
that's facts. The term deposits are popping off.
Yeah, through the roof. But if you've got a mortgage, it's not a fun time. And
yeah,
like because me and the teacher were moving to Vietnam, right? And we still have to pay our mortgage, even though we're going to be on Vietnamese wages. Have to like use most of our savings to pay it down to make the repayments like a bit more manageable.
Yeah, if it increase that, your rent won't be enough to pay. Is it the case?
Well, yeah, it definitely could hit that way pretty quick. You know, we were making repayments at like 2.5%, and then it jumped to like 4%, and that was like pretty manageable. Like we didn't really struggle with that, but it was like not fun. And if it goes up to like 8%, like that's like almost double the repayments that we were paying like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And like most of that money is just like not off the mortgage. It's like off just like interest, right?
It is not far away. It's like February is like 3 months away.
Did you guys split your mortgage into like a revolving credit?
No.
That's so lucky. Like normally a revolving credit is like the way to go to only pay interest on what you borrow. But like a revolving credit, the interest rate is the floating rate.
Yeah.
And the floating rate is usually like the 2-year fixed term rate plus 1%.
Yeah.
So you pay 9%. You're paying 9% on $1 million mortgage. That's 90K. Like if you don't get paid more than 90K income, like you're losing money.
Most people don't do floating on the whole lot. You can like chunk up your mortgage into different sections. So most people will like fix in like a lump sum, and if you want to, you just have like the top 100K that you could pay down or whatever as the floating. I don't think most people don't do floating for the whole lot. But
true.
Yeah, because some of the people I know, they even chop their mortgage up into like they do like a 10-year fixed for part of it, and then 5 years for part of it, 2 years for part of it, 1 year for part of it, and then revolving. And I'm like, no, that's too complicated. The Reserve Bank or like the reserve rate.
Yeah.
And so pretty much like if that rate goes up, then every interest rate at a bank goes up. So that's interest on money in a term account goes up, and also interest on mortgages go up. So if you have a loan with the bank and interest rates go up, it's bad. If you have cash in the bank and interest rates go up, it's good. But whether that rate goes up or down is actually not determined by the banks. It's determined by the official cash reserve or whatever, pretty much.
It's a super scam though. Like for example, today it got increased to 4.25%. In that announcement, the Reserve Bank said that the central banks, which are our banks, have already like accounted for this increase, but they won't. They'll just increase it more because it's like they can't take a loss. Like every year, they have to make more money. Like if you go flat, you're not doing well in business. So it's like
Yeah.
it's not accounted for. So that's what's crazy about this whole thing. It's like
Banks are also just like in the best position to do well when the economy is fluctuating. Because
Mm.
like when the economy is just doing like the same thing like year after year, like standard amount of growth, like the bank just does okay every year. But when stuff starts like fluctuating up and down, a bank is the place that has the money that they can afford to like ride the wave, and so they can buy assets when they're cheap.
Yeah.
Like when people are like forced to sell their homes because of like can't afford it anymore.
Yeah.
Like banks can buy assets then and then
Mhm.
hold on to them until they're just like worth more or like riding out the uncertainty. And so
Yeah.
that like banks have made record profits this last year or whatever, right? Last financial year. And like that's why they're proposing that windfall tax on the banks because the
Mhm.
banks just
Yeah.
made like
$1
record
billion.
profits.
ANZ
Yeah.
made $1 billion or something like
Yeah.
Yeah,
this
2
last year.
billions.
Yeah.
2 billion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like the government's just like,
Crazy.
yo, this ain't right. Like banks shouldn't be making record profits when everybody is like having a worse time. Like no one cares how much money the banks make if everybody's life is getting better. Like if your wages are going up and your buying power is going up and your living like situation is like improving, I don't care if the banks make $1 billion extra dollars. But when like our lives are getting harder, like cost of things going up, and then banks are just making profit, you're like, okay, something's gone wrong here. Westpac offers that most banks don't offer that
What's
meant that we kind of didn't we didn't care that much about the revolving credit aspect, is we can move our repayments up and down by like 10% with no costs.
Oh, that's good.
So it's just a built-in feature to the Westpac mortgages, is they
Yeah.
just like give
Interesting.
you wiggle room. So that if you
Mm.
want to increase your repayment rate, you just can to a certain limit, and then
Mhm.
it
Never
also
heard
let you
about that
decrease
before.
it. And
Oh,
there's like
okay.
no penalties associated with that at all. It's just like part
Yeah,
of
I
the
mean,
standard
10%
mortgage
is a
package.
big margin.
Yeah, it's a huge margin for an individual, but obviously the banks, it's like not a big deal for them. Well, for a bank as big as Westpac, like individual home loans going up or down by 10%, like
Yeah.
cost them very little. And so like normally they would like get you to do like a floating revolving credit on part of your mortgage. But we just like don't need to do that because we just have the ability to like move it up or down. So that if we like suddenly started earning more and wanted to like bring it up, we just could do that.
Did your broker like connect you to the bank, or did you just thought, oh, we'll go with Westpac?
So we just asked our broker. So like originally when we were first applying for a loan, they just like went to pretty much only the big banks because only the big banks would lend to us with a 10% deposit.
Mm.
And they just like they got a couple offers and we just got the best one, like whatever the best rate was, which was
Yeah.
ASB. And then when we've been with them for 2 years and
Yeah.
like we thought like we said like, oh, we'd be interested in like swapping to a different bank if we can like get a cash lump sum or whatever.
Yeah.
And just every time our mortgage comes up for like renewal at the end of our fixed term, our mortgage broker contacts us anyway. Westpac, part of the deal was you had to move all of your everyday banking to Westpac as well. And so
Oh.
like whatever bank you're with before, we both just had to open like an everyday account and like a whatever, and
Mm.
we had to change our what's it called?
Like pay coming into
Yeah,
Westpac, everything.
yeah, your salaried account or whatever, like your normal paid account.
Mm.
We had to change that to Westpac as part of the moving deal.
All experience. Do you want to make our own wood cabin? Last time we talked about going into wood and make our own cabins was a skill. Do you think that we should have had that?
I mean, in this property market, sounds great.
Yeah, facts. It's not a choice really. It's like that's how it's gonna be.
Like out of Palmy, there was this there's a block of land for sale.
Oh
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, and it was only like $300,000 or something, and I'm like, oh,
How much? How much is the land?
like 300, like
The
300,000.
area.
I can't remember how big it was, but it was all just like pine trees, and I
Ah,
just thought, actually, that'd be great. You could just like buy the chunk of land. It already has all the trees on it. You just
yeah.
go out there and just cut down some trees and make your log cabin with like the logs that are already there.
Yeah. I mean,
I think,
definitely for real, you can make a like Airbnb cabin or something.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean,
Uh,
apart from the problems of like, no plumbing or electricity or like Wi-Fi or like fiber or anything, it's also, you can't do it without consents and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
You have to get everything consented and signed off and all that kind of stuff before you can build, let alone I think
Can
if it's counted as a temporary structure, you can
Yeah.
probably get away with it. But
Yeah.
that means you have to literally be able to take it down for like at least like half the year or whatever. I mean, you could probably just do it and get away with it if it was just you living in your wood cabins in your block of land. Like, I don't think anybody would come along and really care. But it would just mean like you'd have to demolish that if you ever sold the land, and like you just would have no like services or whatever, right? Like you can't have power or internet or plumbing hooked into a place that isn't an actual dwelling.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd rather live in Timaru.
I mean, that would
oh,
be a cool Airbnb experience. Just disconnect from all the distracts.
you could get away with it or get around it if you just built a garage, because this is like, I know this was an alternative plan we were thinking, right?
Yeah.
It's like getting consents for building like a garage is like a little bit easier, and they're also just like cheaper and like simpler to build. And so you can just like get a garage and then get power to a garage, and then you can get like plumbing to a garage.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just build like a little like like a little annex on the end of your garage, right? With like one room with like a because some garages already have like a sink and like laundry and stuff in the back.
Yeah.
You just make it like a kitchen in the back of your garage rather than a laundry sink.
Yeah.
And then you just have like one
Insane.
room like that you've made out, and then like a bathroom ensuite or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you can just use your garage as like your lounge or your living space. Especially you get those carpeted garages, which are actually not too bad, right? And like
Yeah.
that's all you've built is a garage and like a in the woods. But you can get like power to it, you can get water to it, you can put in a hot water cylinder, you can set it up with like a like all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then you could even just build your log cabin next door or whatever, or like nearby. And that could be more of your living space or your whatever, or like your summer experience, or even like your Airbnb, and you're like,
What else? How dependent we are as humans when we come to like our food chain, like our food access to food.
100%.
oh, you're seeing like Pakistan like real struggling with that at the moment, right? Like all the disruptions to like the wheat just driving up the cost of like the cheap basic food stuff.
Only few people I know grow something, not even like 10% of their actual consumption.
New Zealand's not too bad because we have like a lot of like primary industries and like food industries in New Zealand.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have a lot of variety necessarily, but like we just export
Can
food.
survive.
Like we'll survive, right?
Yeah.
It's the countries that like rely on import that really like struggle, right? Like that don't even have enough domestic supply of like any type of food to ensure their population would be fed.
Yeah.
And I think like
No. If you turn off the Wi-Fi, no one's gonna survive these days. No Wi-Fi, no data.
I can just look at Gordon Ramsay's cooking whilst eating grass and then just pretend.
Exactly.
Western countries, like just the price of food goes up and you're like, oh, this sucks. Oh my God, everything costs more, right?
Yeah.
But that directly correlates to like thousands of people just like straight up starving. Because like even even the stuff that lower quality food that like wouldn't even be imported to New Zealand at all, like just becomes like every level of food gets more scarce, and like we start to see things like some products just don't exist or like really hard to find in the shelves in supermarkets because like the supply chain's disrupted, and it's like which is like harder to get rid of certain parts or components or whatever. And so we just get like slightly reduced variety and everything goes up in cost. But like in Pakistan, it's like you just won't get enough calories to survive, or like you'll be living
That's so
on
true.
like I think even Sri Lanka is like way more food insecure than most countries.
Yeah, because if you actually put an effort, you can grow something. You won't get all the nutrition, but you will survive.
Like rice is a really good staple crop,
Yeah.
but like there's not enough nutrition in rice. That's why they
Yeah.
make like that golden rice or yellow rice or whatever.
It won't just be like regular hunger. Like there's like also like a psychological hunger that I think that we have in the West. Like if you go to the shop, before you go to the shop, you expect certain items to be there. And like that expectation, like modifies like your mental health. Like if you think that there's gonna be soy sauce at the shop and you go to the shop and there's no soy sauce, there's like a direct effect to like a decrease in mental health.
Mm.
Versus I feel like if you're maybe in like a struggling like world country, it's probably like less of an expectation, so probably like psychologically easier to survive. Physically, it might be difficult, more difficult, but I feel like the psychological toll
Yeah.
is like immeasurable, just based on our expectation of like what we should have. Like we should have power, we should have water, we should have plumbing, we should have internet. Like if you don't have these, like you're kind of low, you know, or you're in trouble. Whereas like for other people, if you got food in your belly and you got shelter, like you're doing pretty well, you know.
And fighting over
You're
toilet paper.
listening to podcasts. Oh, you're on podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, can I listen as well?
I can't say that. Sorry.
That's all right. Bring her in.
Right.
She's already cameoed like 5 times.
Do you want to join the podcast?
Hello.
Howdy.
Hola.
Bring it in. What do you think about food insecurity? On the spot, go.
Food insecurity.
Mm.
Like, what's the topic about? Like, can I have a little
So,
bit of background?
Like kind of talking about like if shit hits the fan like COVID times and like we can't access food from the grocery,
Oh,
like how do you survive? How much important like versus like a third world country, people know how to fish, people know how to hunt, stuff like that. What do you think about how dependent we are on like a supermarket chain? Like we have no skills.
at the moment, we just want everything like really quick, and then we kind of skip the stage of trying to have the skills at home. We just want instant. Yeah, even right now, HelloFresh. People even try to cut down the point of going to the supermarket.
I think like 100% right, because my grandparents, they still talk about this time where they with their church group, they went around like the poorer suburb of Palmerston North, and they like went door knocking, and they're like, what do you guys like need to like help out? And like they saw that like especially like the older sections in like Palmy, you have like huge backyards. Like now they like subdivide them and put like 2 or 3 houses on, right? But like you just used to have like huge backyards, and they would just have like grass, right? That you just had to like mow, and like it was just another chore that you just have to like, why don't you grow some food? Like, you know, like put in some garden. One you have like more urbanization, right? So like even in like a small city like Palmy, all of those old sections are getting turned into like just more housing and like high density, right? And it gets like harder and harder to be worth doing any gardening when your density is higher, right? Like you can't have chickens in your backyard when you don't have much of a backyard, or that you just share a tiny little grass strip with like the other people in your apartment or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So like the more densely urban things get, like the less you can do that. And then I think it's like also just too expensive. Like people can't afford to have big sections anymore. Like the classic Kiwi dream of the lifestyle of having like a big backyard and a big garage and all this space for your kids to play in. It's just like dying because you just can't afford it.
Yeah, the other thing is the lifestyle. People don't have time or energy or a desire to grow.
Yeah.
Even like in Sri Lanka, sometimes like we have land if we want to grow, but every time we start growing something, I mean, not for fun, if we like actually thinking of utilizing it for our food, we always just calculate and think, oh, it is easier and cheaper to buy it from supermarket than growing it at home.
Just like do a couple extra hours at work and you earn
Yeah.
more money that you could just buy the groceries with, rather than spending even more hours like in your backyard.
What do you think are like the true like side hustles that will be useful in the future but are not like super useful right now? Do you know what I'm saying? Like if you start now, by the time you need them, you'll have mastery. Like gardening is one.
I think like doing your own house renovations, like like flipping houses. A lot of those actual skills that house flippers like pretend to have, they don't really have anymore. They were just like buying and selling houses over and over in a market that was constantly growing and just making money from doing that. Because of course you do, right? And you like slap a bit of extra paint on and it looks a bit better and then it just sells for like 10K more, right? But I think if you could like actually do like a good job wallpapering, a good job tiling, a good job like painting, and you could do that, especially if you could do like windows with like double glazing, if you could like do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the real renovation rather than just like the totally cosmetic stuff.
Yeah.
Like that'd be really good, especially in New Zealand where like our houses are kind of like
Yeah.
really poor quality, and we're finally getting regulations from the government to like force people to make at least rentals like half decent quality. That might be a thing, like an interesting thing to think about, like comparison of like what people used to do to like save money or make money on the side,
Yeah.
like and then like what the modern equivalents are. Like at Letitia's grandma's funeral, one of the things they were talking about was that she
Yeah.
used to go like make her own like preserves, like jams and jellies and stuff like that.
Mm.
It's like some of it was stuff that she grew because like obviously if you just like grow a surplus, you have to know how to store it.
Yeah.
Which is also another like piece of the puzzle. Maybe that's where we can start next time because I think some of my family just showed up like
All right.
half an hour ago as well.
Okay.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. Fair enough. Till next time.
Side hustles, ancient side hustles.